Hello everyone, welcome to Gianni's team selection ahead of game week 15. My name is Az, I'm back Gianni, we're back together. Seb has done an incredible job presenting these in my absence, but I've missed you. It's nice to be talking FPL with you again.
Yeah, mate, I've missed you too. Seb did a great job, very capable deputy, and I'm sure I'll be featuring on Seb's streams for Scout in the not too distant at some point. But lovely to be back with you. And I'm just gutted, mate, that you missed my massive green arrow a couple of weeks ago, and now I've just had a massive red, and you're coming back to me. So yeah, sod's law.
Back in time. You've doubled your rank
Yeah.
in the last week. I finally got to use the image of you crying into a tissue, which you sent me at the start of the season. But you've had such a good start to the season, I haven't been able to use that yet. So, kind of devilishly, it was quite nice to to use that.
It's my personal favourite, that one.
Yeah,
I do love that one.
It was a good one. Yeah, we have to get some more from you, I think, for after the World Cup. Don't want to keep reusing them. Also, wore my Brighton kit to celebrate our win over your team at the weekend, which was
Oh,
nice.
Brighton are very impressive, mate. But look, in 12 months' time, Chelsea will just have De Zerbi instead of Potter, right?
Oh, and all our players, Trossard, Casado. Yeah, very likely. We're going to talk about Game Week 14, catch up on some of the big things on that. Obviously, Haaland missing out, Foden as well, some of the other things as well. And we're going to talk about some of your plans to target the final two game weeks. Before we do that, this video, as always, is sponsored by Fantasy5. If you haven't checked out Fantasy5 yet, you really should. It's a completely free-to-play game where you can win £10,000. All you've got to do is pick 5 players across 5 different matches. They all have a fantasy points target, which is goals, assists and clean sheets, essentially just like FPL. No bonus points. If you pick the 5 players that all outscore their points targets, you win £10,000. Gianni and I try each week. We've been close. We still haven't quite managed it. But there's a very interesting one this week. They've got a little offer in, which is Harry Kane's points target is
They've lowered it, have they?
very, very low. In fact, let me tell you what it is. I believe it's either 3.5 or 4.5.
Oh, okay. I was thinking
3.5.
6.5 would be still okay.
3.5. So he needs an assist against Liverpool to meet his target. So in theory, he's going to get that, right? Liverpool have been really poor defensively. I would say you only need to get 4 picks out of 5 to win 10 grand or a share of 10 grand. So this is a good week to play it.
I had a mate text me the other day who got 4 of the 5, and he texted me because he watches these videos every week going, why did I pick Raya? And then Raya was the 5th player that didn't make it. But I was like, oh, that's impressive.
Was there a player in the game that had made it?
I think so. I think so. Yeah. I can't remember who it was. But yeah.
Do you remember when we did it and we went, I think we went Robertson over Trent or something, and we picked like Skip over Kane, and if we'd gone for Trent and Kane, we would have done it. That's the margins. You can be really close. Someone's going to win it very soon, especially when they put in offers like this. So yeah, get involved. Links in the description below. That offer for Kane is for UK players only, not for non-UK. Right, let's talk about Game Week 14. Quickly, you have got a red arrow. You are crying in the thumbnail, so everyone can kind of guess that your week wasn't the best. It was a punishing week, though. I mean, you still managed to get 55 points. You had Pope and Trippier, both coming in with clean sheets, and Trippier the assist. A clean sheet for Cancelo. Kinder Bueno, interesting move. He's come in 2 points. Pereira with 3. Martinelli 8. Salah captain with 14. Foden with 1. The resurgence of Aston Villa and Bailey did not last long.
I got 60 minutes though. He didn't come off at 59. He came off at 60.
Got you 60. He got 2. Kane with 1 against Bournemouth, and Mitrovic with 1. So I mean, you got some points, but it was quite a punishing week because other players that are fairly highly owed, Almiron, Rashford, Trossard, these kind of guys all did well. So if you had a kind of couple of stragglers, you ended up getting a red, which a lot of people on Twitter and on Scout did this week.
Yeah, and I think a lot that had double or triple Arsenal did well, and that sort of killed me a bit on the Sunday. A lot of teams have still got Gabby Jesus, like, what is he, 60, 70, 60% plus owned still. He got a couple of assists, Arsenal clean sheeters, even Saka with the 4 points adds to the total there. So, yeah, the Sunday fixtures killed me a little bit. As now I'm sort of ranks I'm liking, especially last week, I've started using live FPL to track inside the game week to go, what's my rank? So I'm at
You
that stage of the
vowed
season
you
now.
wouldn't do that.
Well, I said it was too early. And even in the last couple of weeks, I've started posting my team on Twitter with my results, which I've only just started doing as well. So now I'm at the part of the season where I feel comfortable doing that. Nothing to do with the fact that I just had a massive big arrow 2 weeks ago. So now I'm checking my rank. And on Saturday, I was on a green arrow. It was great. I'd had my captain play in Salah, but we still had Sunday's fixtures to go. And within those Sunday fixtures, of course, it was the Arsenal game and a fair few others. And that just didn't go well for me at all. And I think we probably forgot or got a little bit excited mid-game week with some green arrows, knowing loads of people had Haaland captain, but someone like Gabby Jesus vice captain, or even De Bruyne vice captain. So those points, really, really totaled up, but not towards the end of the game week.
It's quite interesting because you're the same as me. You've gone for this freemium that we've talked about quite a few, the Salah, Kane, and Haaland triple up. I mean, my kind of weakness then is no Cancelo, so that's where I've got a really cheap defense. But then I've kind of got an okay-ish rest of the team. You've got Cancelo, fair enough. He's probably the best. Well, he's the best defender to own. But that means that you look at your team this week and you've got Bueno in there, you've got Pereira that's come in, you've got Bailey there as well. Not a huge, amount to kind of manoeuvre around that. Is that kind of how do you feel about that? Are you still confident with that kind of going forward?
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be going freemium after the World Cup, but I've had it all season and I'm comfortable with it. You just can't afford injuries. And unfortunately, when someone like a Haaland drops out your team, or even a Zuma has a tough fixture, when they come out your 11, you need Bueno or Bailey to start, which isn't ideal. But I've been fortunate this season. And with the transfer we get each week, when I've had suspended or injured players, I've been able to sell them. Haaland's a little bit different. We don't just sell Haalands without a second thought, right? So this week is a prime example where I've struggled with my squad depth, but that's because I've had a flagged player who I've not been willing to sell. If I was willing to sell Haaland last week, a Bailey isn't in there and then the 11 doesn't look too weak. So yeah, my 10th and 11th players haven't been the strongest, but I've managed to cope okay because I haven't had too many fitness problems in my team this season.
Yeah, I mean, when you're fully fit, it just means you're playing one of Pereira or Bailey. Right?
Yeah, which I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
Around the fixtures, targeting the home fixtures, the way Andreas has been playing this season, more often than not, it's been him.
Yeah. Tell me about Bueno. Where did he come from?
Yeah.
He's a bit exciting, isn't he?
Yeah. Do you know what? He just yesterday got the Wolves Player of the Month as well. He's a Spanish wingback. He, on his debut only a couple of weeks ago, got the assist. Wand of a left foot. Played really well last time out. And I know Wolves were pretty well. They drew with Brentford 1-1. But he looked really good. And at half time, I thought, I'm getting clean sheet and bonus points here because he does well in the BPS. He's pretty attacking. And I think he's now down that left-hand spot. He's 3.9 starter. I don't plan on him being in my 11 too often. Saying that, he's now got 2 okay fixtures. And I needed to fit Foden in a couple of weeks ago. I went from Trossard to Foden like most of us did. Yeah. And to do that, I needed a 3.9 spin on a defender. So I was able to sell Lewis Dunk to Bueno, and off the back of that was my massive green week.
He's coming at a perfect time for you then.
Yeah, Bueno. And the fixtures for Wolves, I'm looking at this run now, and look, I don't know if they do keep clean sheets against Brighton and Arsenal, but they're both at Molineux at least, so it's 2 homes, and it's a 3.9 that gets minutes. Like if he can come off my bench, if he needs to, I think there's a lot worse picks out there.
Absolutely, it's a good shout. And there might be people who need a bit of money that need a 3.9. I mean, I've got Emerson, for example, who doesn't play. Williams has gone up now in price a bit. Lopetegui, we think, is coming in to manage Wolves, and you've got to think a young Spanish fullback from the academy with Wolves will continue to get minutes as well. So yeah, I like that. I like that move. Let's talk about some of the performances just before we move on to Game Week 15 from some of the teams. I mean, we've got to start with Liverpool, I think. I mean, what is going on? Couldn't believe what I was watching.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to even make of their assets this season. Like, there was a time when I sold Trent a few weeks back or even months back, maybe it was on wildcard, and I thought, how am I going to get him in before the World Cup? How am I going to make sure I get Darwin cover before the World Cup? And at the moment, I'm left here with just Salah. I'm very comfortable with him being my only Liverpool asset. And I'm going into this game week thinking, oh, if I need to get, let's say Haaland isn't fit and I need to get a Kevin De Bruyne, is Salah on the chopping block? Probably not, because I think that Tottenham-Liverpool game, both defences are so weak at the moment. and maybe not in terms of goals conceded, but certainly in terms of chances conceded, that could be a high scoring 3-3, and therefore Salah and Kane are both really nice players to own. And then it's Southampton before the World Cup and the World Cup. So look, Salah's probably going to stay in my team, but outside of that, there's no Liverpool assets I really want.
No, I mean Trent and Robertson and Van Dijk lost his kind of unbeaten home record at Leeds. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Oh, no, I've sold Salah already this week.
Have you?
It's easier because I haven't got Cancelo. I could triple up on the City attack. Get De Bruyne in, go Foden.
It's a great move. You saw De Bruyne, so we went to De Bruyne, did you?
Yeah,
knowing you didn't start in the Champions League was beautiful for you.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think people who have got Cancelo and Foden, if they want to do that move, they're going to have to sell one of those two really, or Haaland if he's out, which you're not going to want to do that because Foden was arguably man of the match. I know I don't think he got any attacking returns, but he was kind of dictating everything that went through that team. So even though he's missed the last two, you got to think he's going to come back in against Fulham, I would have thought. Be surprised if he's benched for 3 consecutive Premier League games after sparkling in almost every game that he's played this season. So I think De Bruyne might be someone who kind of goes under the radar a little bit. I'm looking at, but yeah, like I said, not easy to do.
I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous that you now have my preferred triple City, and I love Cancelo, and I think he's a good shout for Fulham Brentford. But if Foden's starting, I'd rather De Bruyne, Haaland, and Foden rather than Cancelo. And I think you now have got triple City attack for 2 homes, and they score 5+ goals every home game. So having the triple attack, that's where I might even move in that same direction. If for example, I hear Haaland's fit and I hear Foden starting, then I've also thought selling Cancelo and Salah this week. I've got 2 free moves.
Well, I mean, selling Cancelo is never going to be fun. I mean, he's the player every week that I don't have. I fear, even though his stats aren't amazing, you feel like they're going to keep a clean sheet every game anyway, and then he's got the ability to turn it on like he has done in other home games. So, I mean, we're always going to have players that we all want and covet and don't end up with. But it's interesting that yours is De Bruyne reminds Cancelo, both players that we've got in the team. Let's just talk about Kane quickly.
Yeah.
Just before we move on, really strange game against Bournemouth. I think a lot of us were expecting them to win that comfortably. I think a lot of us were expecting to beat Marseille quite comfortably as well in the Champions League and qualify. They've won both those games, but definitely not comfortably. They've been on a bit of a poor run. I mean, they lost against Newcastle, lost against United. Champions League results haven't been great. Last minute winner against Bournemouth and Marseille. I mean, Kane has been great, but when a player like Kane blanks against Bournemouth, it gets the alarm bells ringing a little bit, doesn't it?
Especially when they score 3 goals and Kane isn't involved in any of them. But look, I'm so underwhelmed by the way Spurs have been playing recently, and sure they've been grinding out a few results. I'd actually say rather than the sign of champions winning when you're not playing well, what I'm seeing with Spurs is they're simply getting lucky. They are simply getting lucky, and the teams they're facing are missing easy chances. I mean, Marseille should have been clear at half time, and then even late in the game when Kolasinac missed a sitter. Really high XG chances that they are just somehow their opponents are missing. They're not even worldy saves a lot of the time. But would I be trusting Spurs in FPL? Probably not. Harry Kane is the only player I would want to own. Would I be trusting with the armband even if it was a prime fixture? No, I just don't trust Spurs at the moment. I think the big problem with Spurs under Conte at the moment, and Conte is a manager I adore, as many that have watched me will know, is the wing backs are crucial to his system. He ain't changing the system, but what he needs is quality out wide, and he just doesn't have it in the squad. He really doesn't. So I'd be shocked if he didn't buy one quality wing back this January. It's happening. Probably someone that can play on the right, and then Perisic will be first choice on the left. But geez, they need that. Or you may as well abandon the whole Conte project if you're not going to invest in quality wing backs, because that's his football is all about those high fullbacks, high wing backs.
Yeah, I mean, Doherty, Spence, Emerson, none of them are really up to his level, are they?
I think us FPL fans think that Doherty is a good player because he's done really well in FPL for Wolves. But in real time, as a footballer, Doherty's useless to the point where even Nuno went to Spurs and Nuno had him at Wolves and Nuno wouldn't play him. Then Mourinho didn't want to play him. Conte doesn't want to play him. This is a guy that was playing championship football for Wolves for a reason. And sure, he was an amazing FPL asset. So we all look at him with rose-tinted glasses. But no, he's not a Conte footballer. And I think the two strongest wing backs in the squad are probably Sessegnon and Perisic, but Sessegnon still feels raw. Perisic prefers playing on the left, so that means you've got to play him on the right if you play Sessegnon. So yeah, they're a bit all over the place.
The disrespect, Gianni, towards Matt Doherty, FPL legend.
Yeah, I know. We do, don't we? We have our FPL favourites. It's like, I don't know, there's other examples. Was Mishu very good? No, but we loved him in FPL for a season.
I'm really surprised, as people in the chat saying, I'm really surprised that Spence isn't getting any minutes at all. Like isn't getting a look in at all. Because he must look at Emerson and Doherty and think, well, neither of these players have got the full backing of Conte anyway. Yeah. Why doesn't he just chuck me in to one of these games? We're playing poorly anyway. Like he was one of the championship players of the season last year. He knows how to play at wing back.
Yeah, it's perfect for it. I remember Mark telling us all how amazing he was going to be if we saw him in the Premier League. But one thing I would say about Conte, as much as I love him, one, he said Spence wasn't his signing and was one for the future.
Yeah.
But then also being an Italian coach like Conte, who's pretty old school, you're still young at 27. Like, you do not trust the kids. And Conte never has trusted the kids. And unless he's had an absolute worldie on his hands. I'm trying to think of a few examples.
Well, he's playing Sessegnon, isn't he? Sessegnon's in his early 20s.
True, but I guess he's been in that squad for a lot longer. And he knows the system a bit better. But in terms of Conte's style of coaching. But yeah, he won't take a punt on youngsters. And unfortunately, that's what Spence is falling foul of.
Yep. I see what's a huge problem for Spurs as well. It's Son now being out, World Cup in doubt with this fractured eye socket. It's Kulusevski still being red flagged. Yeah. We're not sure when he's going to be back. Probably won't be before the World Cup. Richarlison out as well, probably until after the World Cup. You know, it's going to be Lucas Moura coming in, Brian Gill coming in, possibly. You know, completely out of the cold. Has played 6 minutes so far this season. The biggest worry for us though, Harry Kane, 4 bookings.
Yes. Yeah, he's got to be careful. Got to be really careful.
They can't afford to lose him against Leeds when they've got this many injuries in attack.
Yeah, if they did. Harry Kane isn't a player that picks up a ton of yellows. I'm surprised that he's already on 4, to be fair. So look, he's just got to be a good boy against Liverpool. But that would be really annoying if we were forced to sell Harry Kane for game week 16, because that Leeds fixture for us Kane owners is one of the reasons we perhaps looked at him in the last few weeks was, but just before the World Cup, game week 16, Leeds at home, that's a nice fixture for him. Although maybe it's not so nice now the way Spurs are playing and with all the injuries they've got.
It's strange with Kane. The games he's been booked in have been Forest, Wolves, Brighton, and Bournemouth. 4 of the kind of winnable games. Yeah. You know, it's Liverpool next. You've got to think it's going to be a pretty spicy game. That one, I'm worried he's going to get a booking in that, because if he gets banned for that game against Leeds, that's a huge issue for people like us who've got him. Like, we just want Kane for that game, even with the injuries around Spurs.
We'd be looking at 4-point hits to sell him, because we'd have so much money. We'd be selling Kane down to a Wilson and go, we've got so much money, we may as well take a hit and use it.
I mean, God knows who they play if Kane's out as well. I think it really would be Gill up top, flanked by Moura and...
Might be Perisic out of position. He might play maybe. Perisic front 2 or front 3, which even this week he could do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it might elevate Perisic actually. All these injuries, attacking injuries. It's a good point. Let's take a look at your team and how it's set up for game week 15. Yeah. 5 at the back currently, with your double Newcastle, Pope and Trippier. Bueno's in again for a potentially
Bueno
another
starts.
Brighton at home. Zuma is there and Williams, and then it's Martinelli, Foden, Salah, Haaland captain, and Kane up top. But you do have 2 free transfers, so I'm guessing your team isn't going to look too much like this. Where the
no, it's rolls not. Around. And I'm almost certainly using both transfers just to maximise that 2-week punt option before the World Cup. I don't think I'll use one and then roll and have 2 in 16. I think I'm likely to use both this week. But so much depends, as always, on that flagged Haaland. If Haaland is... He's not going to be confirmed 100% out. We know that because Pep didn't confirm he was out last week when he didn't even travel and clearly couldn't play. So he's definitely not going to confirm him out on Friday's press conference. But we need training photos and I hope we get them. Although Man City last week from Friday's training literally posted 9 images on their website featuring like 7 players. It was like, oh, thanks.
The good thing is it's a late deadline, 3 o'clock.
Yeah,
deadline.
and City are in a 3 o'clock kickoff. Yeah. So
I think we'll get news.
We will, won't we? And it
Yeah.
will be probably 15 or 10 minutes before the deadline. But we have to react to that news in the first 5 minutes, because if we save it to minute 9 and 10,
Oh,
which is the last minute before the deadline, which is what I did last week when I tried selling Foden to Saka, I couldn't. It blocked me. I was on 2 devices, refreshing every 2 seconds, but the website was too busy. And I worry that for that again this week. So as soon as I hear any news, I'll have to act on it with at least 5 minutes. And you guys should all do the same. Don't leave your transfers for the last minute or two, as I did, because my transfers didn't go through. I lost only 3 points from Foden to Saka. Foden got 1, Saka 4, but it's still annoying.
Yeah. Well, would you be reversing that move now if you were a Saka
Yeah, I
owner?
would be, to be fair.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm actually, it worked out okay. But after the first 5 minutes of that game, when Saka gets an assist and you're like, they're going to batter Nottingham Forest and Saka's going to go get a 20-pointer here, I was annoyed.
I do think the people that have done Foden to Saka, if Saka starts, then, and that allows people to then do Salah to De Bruyne, I think that's probably worked out quite well for some people.
True.
If Saka isn't fit though, that's
That's
a nightmare. That is a nightmare, having to then sell him for someone else.
And of course, if Foden bangs against Fulham, that's the other thing we just don't know.
There's always that, and that's the kind of annoying player Foden is we thought he'd kind of shaken off this sort of FPL troll status a little bit, but he started every game and then suddenly misses two in a row just as everyone buys him. It's just typical, isn't it?
For the World Cup as well, he must be thinking, I really need game time here because I'm so close to that starting 11 from Southgate. I'm on the edges. And I'm probably one of the players he's not fully decided on. Is he a starter? Is he not? And then Pep's benching him in the Premier League. It doesn't look good. So he'll be desperate to start against Fulham. And I really think he will. He played 90 last night in the Champions League. I don't think that's an issue. I expect him to start against Fulham. If he doesn't, then we have to sell him for game week 16.
Yeah. Or do we just think,
but then he's not going to miss.
He's not going to miss 4 games in a row. It just goes on and on and on, doesn't it?
One thing I'm doing this week, and I haven't worked out my transfers yet because it's so dependent on Haaland, is 100%. If we get any team news, reliable team news, blue tick team news, I will be owning 3 Man City players, 3 Man City starters this week. I'm convinced that needs to happen. And with 2 transfers, I can allow that to happen. So let's say, for example, Haaland is out. My planned move is, if Haaland's out but Foden and Cancelo start, I simply have to get De Bruyne. Now, if I'm selling Haaland, I could go down to a 5.8 forward and go Martinelli to KDB, for example.
I mean, let's touch on that quickly, because that is selling 2 players with a lot of value tied up in them. There's a lot of reluctance to do that. I think Praz was one of the only managers I saw that actually sold Haaland last week, because a lot of people worried about losing that 0.3, 0.4 million on him. If you sell Martinelli as well, that's potentially 0.6, 0.7. Is that not bothered about that?
So I don't worry too much about Haaland's value because he dropped again last night. So I'd be losing 0.3 rather than 0.4 for someone like Praz. I guess, depending on when he bought him, was probably 0.4. So I don't mind the 0.3. I think I can take that. The Martinelli one's a bit of an issue because I've got so much money in him, more than probably any other player I own. And I do think after the World Cup, I'll probably want to own Martinelli. But at the same time, I've also promised myself that come January, if I can only afford 1 Arsenal midfielder, I'm going to make that Saka. I think Saka's worth the extra money now if the last month's anything to go by. So I'm not 100% convinced Martinelli would be in my new team come game week 17 anyway. Therefore, I'd be really annoyed if I didn't sell him now, only to go and sell him in a fortnight's time in my unlimited transfers. So I guess I have to just go, don't worry too much about team value. Pick the best players. The other option is I could sell Salah to KDB, but knowing I might not have to if Haaland is injured, I kind of like the idea of keeping Salah for that Southampton fixture at Anfield.
Well, you'd have to get rid of one of your City players if you sort of just get rid of Salah for De Bruyne.
Yeah, it would be if Haaland's injured, I could go Haaland to any forward and then Salah to KDB,
then have like 5 million in the bank, ready for game week 16. Yeah,
and which might be Bailey to, I don't know, Bruno, whatever.
Okay, so if Haaland's out, you'll definitely be getting rid of him essentially, and getting in another Man City.
Yeah, I can't have City play Fulham and only own Foden and Cancelo.
Yeah.
I simply have to have 3 assets. And that might be Alvarez coming in. I need to see those team sheets.
Okay, so that's option 1. Option 2, Haaland's fit.
Option two, Haaland's fit. Then again, the big question mark is over Foden. If Foden isn't in the starting 11, I convert Foden to KDB. And I can convert Foden to KDB by selling either Kane or Salah. So the decision, and remember, I've got 2 frees here. So again, if Haaland starts and Foden doesn't, I go back to the old principle of I have to own triple City for Fulham. I'm a big believer of that. Captaincy and owning triple is an absolute must. So yeah, Foden to KDB. And then I take the decision to sell Kane or Salah. And at the moment, I'm thinking it'd probably be Harry Kane, maybe down to a Callum Wilson. But I haven't thought too much about that because I think that option, whilst I'll have it in my notes as all my scenarios so I can react quickly, I think that scenario is less likely that Haaland's fit and Foden doesn't start. The other option is that they both start. I go, okay, what do I do with my transfers? And that I haven't thought too much about either. I mean, it probably requires a couple of more boring moves. There's no one I really want to sell. That's the problem. For my premiums, I kind of am fairly happy with them.
Very, very interesting this, because this isn't what I expected when I saw this team. I saw you 5 at the back and I thought, oh, you just set that up. And my instinct when I looked at this side was there'll be more talk about you selling Salah and putting some of that money into, I don't know, Mitrovic up to Wilson, or, I don't know, more money into your midfield, going for a Rashford or a Almiron, or basically just strengthening that. But
yeah,
you're actually talking about swapping out quite established players like in your side. You know, your Foden, Martinelli, Haaland, getting rid of Kane, and keeping that back 5 relatively unchecked. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, the back 5 would become a back 3 or back 4 with some of those guys going on the bench. But yeah, as in keeping, I'm not looking really at using transfers on those defenders.
Okay, Mitrovic. Just last question. A lot of people selling him. Tony as well, suspended. I think Tony's had about 850,000 transfers out. Callum Wilson's had about 820,000 transfers in. So you can see where that kind of market is going. You've got him benched at the moment. I mean, you're benching for Bueno, for example. So you've clearly got no faith in Fulham to score against City at all.
Yeah, and I don't mind the Mitrovic fixture in 16 because it's at Craven Cottage and it's Man United. But going to the Etihad, you can't expect much, although he does seem to score against all the big teams. I guess if Haaland, Foden, Cancelo are starting, for example, I was looking, the one player I'd sacrifice that I'm happy selling would be Mitro. So again, my transfer would be Mitrovic. Ideally, I'd want someone like a Callum Wilson. Can't afford him. He's got no money in the bank. And I'd have to therefore downgrade a Martinelli, which I wouldn't want to do for a player like that. I'm only up for downgrading Martinelli if it gets me KDB and I'm giving him the armband, for example. So Mitrovic to Scamacca is an option. And that is something I'd looked at too. And that might be one of the few scenarios where I go, I just use one transfer and roll the second one into 16. There are so many different scenarios based on the fitness of Haaland and the potential, the potential of Foden being dropped. And I will have all those scenarios clearly written out with 5-6 different options. So then when I see that City team news, if we see it, I can then react to it.
Surprised on your wall you haven't got like have a whole one of those like crime documentaries and they've got all different situations.
The mugshots.
Haaland, a big cross through him and all that kind
but
of
yeah,
thing.
so selling Mitrovic is an option. Scamacca's a big risk over expected minutes. Like, I think he starts both those games, but as we know with Scamacca, he comes off early. But it's 2 nice homes for West Ham, Palace and then Leicester. I think I could see goals there. I'd love to be able to stretch to a Callum Wilson. Calvert-Lewin's the only other option because Everton, again, they're a team that has 2 goodish fixtures. But again, Calvert-Lewin is more expensive than Mitro, so I'd need to find money somewhere.
Good. Yeah, very nice. Interesting that, Wilson and Almiron are kind of players a lot of people are moving for, but you're focusing much more on this City thing, which isn't that surprising. But
I love City so much. I just have to the idea of not owning Triple City for these 2 homes.
I don't know if you saw...
You have to do it.
I don't know if you saw Black Box last night, but one of the... I
haven't listened yet.
The key stat from that is that Fulham are bottom of the table in terms of expected goals conceded per 90 over the last 6. Ooh. So out of all teams, and they've had the best fixtures over the last 6. So
doesn't sound great. They've been changing their centre backs. I noticed. I think Tosin came in and hadn't been playing. So yeah, they've been moving around I think Diop played and then Tosin played. So they've been moving around their centre backs too. So they're not happy.
They're due a spanking. That's what the stats say.
So yeah, okay, that's good to know. And yeah, with captaincy, as I guess I'll be going KDB if it's not Haaland. It'll be Haaland or KDB my captain because I'm potentially Foden. But if I don't own, if Haaland doesn't play, then KDB will be my team. Yep. And you've got to go KDB over Foden.
Yeah, excellent. Let's move over to Fantasy 5. Do our selections for that. Like I said, good week to play it. Links in the description below. It's a fun game for our first pick. Forest versus Brentford. You see lots of goals in this one.
I think Forest might win, and you know my scenarios of going Haaland down to a cheap forward and Martinelli going up to KDB. That cheap forward would be, and I've got the exact funds to do it, would be the Nottingham Forest striker because he's had a goal recently, that Aboniyi.
Yep.
So I'd look at him.
6.5 though. He needs multiple returns. They've actually priced Brentford quite kindly in this. A lot of 5.5s or 4.5s. I don't mind Henderson at 6.5 for Forest, considering he makes saves and they haven't got a recognised striker.
He will make saves.
I do like the Aminai pick, but 6.5, I think it's a bit much.
He doesn't play 90 ever either.
No,
Forest have got about 100 players.
I think we go for Henderson. That was my.
I'm up for Hendo.
Shout, and I've got.
I like that pick.
So I'm rooting for him. Everton, Leicester. We've got Calvert-Lewin at 6.5, Vardy at 6.5. Iwobi.
Vardy 6.5 is cheap.
He is cheap. Does he start though? We've got Daka at 6.5 as well. Iwobi, resurgent Iwobi, 6.5. And Gordon, something like Maddison, 7.5. Barnes, 6.5. That's quite nice. And then all the defenders around, kind of 6.5.
How do you see that game going? Do you see it
tough? I
see
tight.
I see a score like a 1-1 or something. I see probably a draw. I think that'd be a stalemate.
Yeah, I think I've backed to Leicester win on Black Box. But
I mean, Harvey Barnes being 6.5 sounds better
Barnes
value than say a Gordon or an Iwobi.
Yeah, let's go for Barnes. I like that. Chelsea Arsenal. Now this is an interesting game.
Oh, God.
I don't know what's going to happen here. Chelsea was so poor against Brighton, but and then went 1-0 down, didn't they, in the Champions League? But won the game. Who's going to play for Chelsea? Can we trust any of their assets? They're all quite expensive. Aubameyang, Havertz both 6.5, Sterling 7.5, Mount 7.5. Then you look at Arsenal. I mean, Partey 4.5, just needs an assist. Xhaka 6.5, Martinelli 7.5, Nelson 6.5. We think he's going to start, but you think probably Saka's going to come back in. I don't know.
How much is Saka?
Saka's 7.5.
He's the same as Martinelli, and he's on pens.
Yeah.
I would look at an Arsenal player over a Chelsea player.
So
I mean, it just go. I guess the defenders. Is there any value in the defenders, or are they all?
They're all 6.5. So they all need a clean sheet, and
I expect Chelsea to score. To be fair.
So do I. I think we go for Saka or Martinelli.
I think we have to go Saka because of pens, and I'm sure knowing we saw the training photos yesterday of him training, I'm sure he'll start.
Cool, Saka it is. Southampton, Newcastle. I think we can discredit Southampton in this one. Apologies, Southampton fans. The prices are all quite cheap, but
is there value in a someone, because like Almiron and Wilson I guess will be more, but someone like a Willock who's due a goal and been starting?
Willock's 6.5, but Almiron and Wilson are both 7.5. Actually, Wilson's 6.5. I think he's an easy choice.
We have to go Wilson then if he's the same as Willock.
I think so. Yeah, good. This is how you got to do it though. Got to find those gems. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Tottenham Liverpool is an easy one because there's this offer on Kane. Kane at 3.5. You're not going to go
Kane
anywhere else. I mean, Son's 8.5. Oh, he's got fractured eyes. I'm going to play. Someone like Mora 7.5. I mean, you just if you're playing this week, just select Kane at 3.5. Okay, so that gives us Hendo, Barnes, Saka, Wilson, and Kane. Decent five.
Amazing. Yeah, that works for me.
Cool.
I'm up for that.
Yep.
Guys, let us know if you're liking our choices there. Only 44 from over 500 watching have hit that like button, and I'm sure many of you are enjoying it. So just show us your enjoyment levels by hitting that like button.
Absolutely. Yep. Oops, I just went onto the YouTube screen. Everyone can see how it all works behind the scenes. All the buttons I pressed that are wrong. Awesome stuff. Gianni, it's been good chatting to you again.
Yeah, mate. Looking forward to next week. Hopefully off the back of a green. We all want a green before the World Cup. If you don't get one this week, you really need one next.
World Cup? Are you playing World Cup fantasy games?
Yeah, I'll be playing the FIFA one. If it's when it's out. I've not seen or heard anything, but I'm guessing it will be out very soon. So yeah, I haven't decided yet on all my others yet, because I definitely will. I'll almost certainly be playing a second one.
Yeah. Just leaving that out there just to kind of tempt. Yeah, I'm doing my first fantasy video with Josh later, which will be good. We'll be doing Sky, but I don't think we've got video content planned for that. But we'll definitely be covering the FIFA game and Fan Team.
Nice. I love the fact Fan Team always get their games out early as well. Like same with the season-long Premier League one. It always gives you a really good indicator on prices and positions and stuff like that, because it's always pretty accurate to the official game.
And they've got two different games this year, which is one a single entry and then the multiple entry as well. So they're kind of covering all bases. So yeah, if you're interested in World Cup game, check out the video I do with Josh a bit later today. And as Gianni has said, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Do give this video a like as well. And Gianni and I will be back next week ahead of the final matches before the World Cup break.
Yeah, sounds good. See you later, guys.
Thanks, everyone.